So, as I've earlier told you all, I basically specialize in energy and infrastructure, energy infrastructure projects and project finance. This is the ambit within which we work. Again, a very specialized area of practice where we generally look at advising clients from the perspective of infrastructure projects and also from financing of infrastructure projects. So it is it could mean looking at projects to do with airports, roads, highways, bridges, power plants, oil and gas sector, refineries. So that is energy projects, so even renewable energy projects. So that is how we basically look at this practice, but it's essentially to do with everything to do with this sector. So it's a 360-degree practice. So we start from structuring of these projects to financing of these projects to advising on disputes on these projects. So it's pretty much a 360-degree practice. So essentially we work with the governments. So most of the governments, like the state government, the central government, the local bodies, like even the municipalities, the various specialized organizations, for example, like town planning organization like CIDCO, which is in Bombay. So that is the whole government side of our practice. We also work a lot with on the policy side. So we work with the Niti Aayog on drafting of policies which are relevant for the infrastructure and energy side, whether it's social infrastructure or infrastructure in general. So that's one big area. Then we also represent obviously the private developers or the private entities who basically develop or operate projects. So you could take the likes of airport operator like GVK, GMR. We represent the likes of various major road players which are there in the market today. International operators we have clients from France who are like CGM, CMA CGM, that's a large port operator. We also act for international companies like Roadies, which is again investing in road projects in India. We also work for banks and financial institutions where we are working on the lender side for projects. So all the major banks, you name it, we pretty much represent. We also work for the likes of IFC, World Bank on some of the structuring of these projects and also when they are funding these projects. And now recently what we are seeing is a lot of infrastructure financing is coming from the funds, the pension funds and also the sovereign funds. So we do work for the funds like NIIF, which is India's Sovereign Wealth Fund. We act for many other investors like ISQ Capital, who are basically funds who invest in infrastructure projects. Yeah. So transactions again would be typical when you look at setting up of a power plant, setting up of a road project, setting up of an airport, a port. This is where we come in. That's where that is a very specialized area. So it's not only whilst setting up these projects, then also when these projects are sold from one developer or a private entity to another private entity, we act for one of these players who are basically buying or selling these projects. We also basically look at financing. So when we are financing these projects, we act for the lenders, so that's where again we typically do the financing bit of these projects. And sometimes we are approached when these projects are not doing so well, so we work on these projects at restructuring, renegotiating these projects, or at the time of arbitration, where it goes into international arbitration or domestic arbitration, to kind of see if we can resolve disputes which start between the private operators and the government. Yeah, so for me, again, like most students, I started doing internships in my second, third, fourth, fifth years. And so this was around the fourth year when I was doing an internship, fourth or early fifth year, when I was doing an internship with ICICI Bank. And basically ICICI Bank, when we were doing the internship, I was part of the project finance team there, and that gave me a real exposure into how these projects work. And at that time it was the telecommunications boom in India, so we were working on a lot of telecommunications projects, and that's how I got interested in projects and project financing, looking at how these things work. And I was given an assignment at that time from my supervisor, which was to look at the whole telecommunication sector in India. And I needed to prepare actually ultimately I prepared a booklet on that, which got circulated within the bank at that point. And that point I think ICICI was still ICICI, and it was getting the reverse merger was happening into the bank. So it was that booklet on telecommunications and how financing of telecommunications should work in India was circulated, and that's how I got interest and kept working on it. Yeah, so the day for me starts very early. So I'm in office by around say 8:30, and then we are trying to basically catch up on all our emails and basically then look at what tasks need to be done during the day, and then plan it out. And by the time we are basically planning what needs to be done, most of the team members come in by then, and then we basically discuss what needs to be done, and we all get on with our work, whether it's looking at contracts or having meetings or basically discussing negotiating with clients or discussing with our clients or the other side. So it's pretty much after that it's basically working on one assignment after another. I mean, whatever is there in the day, some bit of administrative work, but mainly practice related, practice development or transactions. That's how we structure ourselves during the day. So junior lawyer will typically be given work by the senior associates or the principal associates or the associate partners. We would typically not kind of interact on a daily basis with the junior lawyers, because there are I mean the teams are there to work with them. What they would typically do is work on whether it is research or basically due diligence. That is where they start off with. So essentially it's either research or due diligence. They would a typical first year lawyer would probably do that, and then slowly they graduate into working on some of the smaller documents, some of the resolutions or some of the checklists, starting to draft some of the smaller documents or the ancillary documents as we call it, and then basically graduating to working on some of the larger documents like a concession agreement or a loan agreement. By the time you're in your third year, probably you're looking at starting to draft those documents. Obviously supervised by a senior lawyer, and then slowly also attending meetings with the seniors to understand how these meetings go or negotiations go, and and then graduating slowly to actually leading deals and then moving up the chain. So we again give real work to interns. It's not as if they're working on stuff which is not transactions that we are working on. Essentially, we do give them again a work which maybe a first year lawyer would do in terms of doing a lot of due diligence and a lot of research on topics which are very important to us in terms of either it is something which relates to a particular live transaction, or it relates to our understanding on a particular issue which is very topical, or we are going to meet a particular client or a prospective client and just trying to understand what they are doing, what is their business, what kind of transactions have they been doing recently. So that is the kind of work that they will be assisting us with. So again, typically I would recruit lawyers at the junior most level who are interested in this practice area. So I would want them to have some knowledge of what it is and how it works. I would probably recruit people who have an understanding of what they want to do and they like this area of practice. Skill sets, obviously they need the basic degrees in law and understanding the basics of contract and Companies Act. At the end of the day, whatever specialization you do, the basics of law is extremely important. So contracts, constitution and Companies Act are extremely important, and also transfer of property. I mean, these four areas of which you learn hardcore in a law school is very important. And then if you've done some courses in projects and project finance, that is obviously an advantage, and we are seeing a lot of students now slowly getting into those courses and having some experience in these sectors. Yeah, the reason why I decided to get into projects and project finance is this is a practice area which actually gives you a lot of satisfaction at the end of the day of having done something for the public at large, and you are basically at the end of the day there are these very tangible projects that you can show that you have worked on. For example, we are currently working on some of the most important and largest projects in Bombay, which will basically change the face of Bombay tomorrow. So whether it's the metro project, we are working on the metro project for Bombay, we are working on the new Navi Mumbai International Airport, we are working on the NMSEZ, we are working on a project. I have worked on a project which basically is going to connect Suri to Uran, which is a 26-kilometer road over the bridge, over the sea. So these are projects which actually will change the way we live in Bombay. So that gives me a lot of satisfaction that I'm actually working on projects which will change the way we live in a city, or whether it be even projects which are nationally important. For example, I'm today working on a project which is going to connect each district hospital in India with a medical college. We are working along with the Niti Aayog to plan a kind of PPP project around that. And that gives me enormous satisfaction that at the end of the day some of these projects will help to improve the way we live in the country.